يلعب now? Okay. Bismillah. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام الأتمان الأكملان على خير خلق الله نبينا وإمامنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. The third chapter says باب في الإنصات يوم الجمعة في الخطبة. حديث أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال إذا قلت لصاحبك يوم الجمعة أنصت والإمام يخطب فقد لغوت. Chapter number 3 says to observe silence during the khutbah on Friday. It's hadith number 494, narrated by Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu. Allah's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, when the Imam is delivering the khutbah and you ask your companion to keep quiet and listen, then no doubt you have done a laghu. No doubt you have done a laghu. You have done a laghu. So it says babun fil insat. It says al insat, to have silence. Yani fi wujub al insat, the obligation of keeping silent, and the harm of refraining from implementing this obligatory act. The obligation of refraining. Sometimes not doing an act is called an act. Avoiding something is an act in itself. Alaykum salam. And from the sunnah is to avoid and to not do. And that's a righteous deed. Sometimes not to do something. So it says babun fil insat, the chapter regarding al insat, about keeping silent, not talking during the khutbah. And it says here yawm al-jum'ah, whereas there could be other days in which there are khutbahs. As mentioned in the narration of Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam said the following words: إذا قلت لصاحبك يوم الجمعة أنصت والإمام يخطب فقد لغوت. If you tell someone sitting next to you, shh, be quiet, don't talk, then you have fallen into the opposite of insult. You've not remained silent. You've broken and violated the rules. And you have, as is based off of this narration, laghawt. You've made laghu. You've made laghu. What does this mean, laghawta? What does it mean? An-Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he goes on to discuss what this word means in the Arabic language. And he mentions the different interpretations of the ulama of al-Islam. Does it mean that you say something which is foul, something which is baseless, something which has no use? Or does it mean that you say something which is unnecessary to talk, period? Even if you don't say anything negative, that you weren't supposed to talk, even enjoining the good and forbidding the evil, to tell someone to be quiet during the khutbah. He says, ففي الحديث النهي عن جميع أنواع الكلام حال الخطبة. He says this hadith proves is that all speech during the khutbah is unlawful. You cannot talk at all when the imam is speaking. A modern day issue is it permissible to text someone in the khutbah? Can you text? Can you use your phone during the khutbah? You're not talking, but you're texting someone. Is that permissible? Does that take the same ruling as talking, as kalam? النووي رحمه الله تعالى, he says, ونبه بهذا على ما سواه لأنه إذا قال أنصت وهو في الأصل أمر بمعروف وسماه لغوا فيسيره من الكلام أولى, وإنما طريقه إذا أراد نهي غيره عن الكلام أن يشير إليه بالسكوت إن فهمه, فإن تعذر فهمه فلينهي بكلام مختصر ولا يزيد على أقل ممكن. He says, listen carefully, when the Prophet ﷺ said this, he's proving something greater and bigger. If he said that you can't tell someone to be quiet, then of course you can't tell someone something else that doesn't have a good purpose or intention behind it. If a brother is talking and you tell him to be quiet, that's a good thing or a bad thing? It's a good thing. So if you can't tell him to be quiet, then how about talking about who played last night? Or what's the khutbah on today? Or, oh man, I wanted Fulan to give the khutbah today. Or something else, which isn't of that value and isn't of that importance. Everyone understand this? And this is tanbih, giving someone, pointing out something to someone and steering them in the direction or placing them upon the path of something bigger, a bigger concept. A bigger concept. I said, when you make salah, you can't wear loose pants. You cannot wear loose pants when you make salah. If I say that you can't wear loose pants, then of course you can't wear when you make salah. Loose pants are good. They're not tight. They're not fitting. They cover your body. If I say that you cannot pray in loose pants, then what do you think about wearing what? Short shorts. Not even, something even worse. Something what? Even worse. Don't tell your parents what? Oof. Let alone other things that you may do with your parents or to your parents. Allah tells the believing women not to show their ankles, not to stomp their feet, lest they show their anklet or bangles or the henna on their feet. If you can't show your ankle, let alone how can you wear tight clothes or not wear no hijab? Allah, He tells the smallest thing, the minor concept to prove and to include the what? The bigger, major concept. And this is a tremendous Islamic principle. And this is a thing which allows Islam and its legislation to remain eternal and remain universal all the time because it's flexible. You understand this? If it's lawful and you're ordered to clean yourself when you use the bathroom with stones, with rocks, then what do you think about water and other cleaning agents and other types of sanitary use? If you can use rocks. In other words, don't use the bathroom and not do what? Nothing. Clean yourself no matter what. Clean yourself no matter what. Everyone understand this? So if you can't tell someone not to do something which is bad and join the good, forbid the evil, then let alone what? Talking about other things. And this is a tremendous principle of the Quran. Alright? And that is to point out the smaller, to intend or to include the what? The larger. Khairan inshallah. Moving forward. As far as if someone is talking, and you have to tell them to be quiet, you have to say something, then what do you do? What do you do? He says, أَنْ يُشِيرَ إِلَيْهِ بِالسُّكُوتِ. Give them a hand signal. A hand signal. And if they can't understand that hand signal, he says, بِكَلَامٍ مُخْتَصَرٍ. Then say something very, very brief. Yo. Don't give a speech. He says, كلام مختصر. واختلف العلماء في الكلام هل هو حرام أو مكروه كراهة تنزيه وهما قولان للشافعي. قال القاضي قال مالك وأبو حنيفة والشافعي وعامة العلماء يجب الإنصات للخطبة، وحكى عن النخعي والشعبي وبعض السلف أنه لا يجب إلا إذا تلا فيها القرآن. قال واختلفوا إذا لم يسمع الإمام هل يلزمه الإنصات كما لو سمعه فقال الجمهور يلزمه وقال النخعي وأحمد وأحد قول الشافعي لا يلزمه. He says here, next issue, the ulama of Islam differ. Now that's what the hadith shows, that don't say anything, period. But that doesn't mean that that's the madhab of all of the ulama. And that's the opinion and the view of all of the ulama. And that's because for a fiqh issue, there could be different types of proofs and evidences. And to make something halal or haram or obligatory or disliked, it doesn't just have to be from a hadith. There are other proofs in Islam as well. Hadith is, of course, no doubt, that's going to be the staple. But there are other ways of affirming these things. So what do the ulama say about talking when the khutbah is going on? All of them agree that it's a bad thing and it should not be done. They all agree that it is a bad thing and it isn't a good thing to do. But is it unlawful to talk? Or is it something which is just makruh, disliked and looked down upon? Is it haram? Or is it something which you should avoid? And if you don't avoid it, your Jumu'ah is still valid and you don't get sin. Which of the two? Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he says that Shafi'i rahimahullah ta'ala, he said both in his old version or in the new version of his madhab. Shafi'i had two different versions of his madhab, as we know. He says Malik rahimahullah, Abu Hanifa, Shafi'i, and most of the ulama, they held the view that a person must be silent when the khutbah is going on. You got to be silent. Haram to speak. As far as Ibrahim al-Nakh'i rahimahullah, we know from the Salaf, and Sha'bi, also from the Salaf al-Salih, and many of them as well, they held the view that the only thing, or the only time, in which you have to refrain from speech is when the Imam is reciting the Quran. When he's on the minbar reciting verses from the Quran, then you have to keep silent. As far as other than that, then they say what? Don't necessarily have to. It doesn't mean that they're encouraging you to talk during the khutbah. It doesn't mean that they're what? Encouraging you to do it. He says here, next issue. What if you can't hear the Imam? Do you still have to remain silent? What if you don't hear it because you're so far away? Meaning, in the times in which they didn't have speakers. They didn't have electricity, or maybe they did have electricity, Allahu Alam. That's a long discussion, when the electricity was discovered. Right? Some people say ancient Egypt. Allahu Alam. Al-Muhim, in Baghdad and Sham and Misr and North Africa, it wasn't documented that they what? Had electricity. Inshallah. So what happens if you're so far from the Imam that you can't hear the Imam? You see him but you can't hear him. Or not even see him. And you may be in a masjid, a jami' in which they don't have no good acoustic system, or the person isn't conveying what the Imam is saying. You can't hear the Imam. Do you still have to remain silent? Or are you allowed to talk? Most of the ulama as well, they say that you still must what? Remain silent. And there were others such as Imam Ahmad rahimahullah and Ibrahim al-Nakh'i and one of the two versions of Shafi'i who held the view that you don't have to keep silent. And obviously the reason why they're saying that you don't have to keep silent is because it's as if you're not there. You can't hear the Imam. Everyone understand this? And this goes to show us a very important principle, is that when you're talking, you're not listening. When you're talking, you're not what? You're not listening. That's a universal principle for a child, for a student of knowledge, for someone who's a husband. If you're talking and arguing, you're not listening to what your wife has to say. And the wife, if you're talking and arguing and cursing and being emotional, you can't be listening to what your husband has to say. So if you're talking, you can't be what? Listening. A parent, you can't listen to your children if you're just giving them orders and telling them what it has to be and what it should be and so on and so on and so forth. Or a child, you can't listen to what your parents are saying if you're talking. So that's an extremely important principle, is that when you talk, you cannot be listening. You understand this? And oftentimes when you don't listen, you don't pay attention. So it shows the virtue of keeping silent certain times. Don't talk. Just observe, just listen. Understand. Agreeing is a different story. Accepting is a different story. Being convinced is a different story. But at least understand what I'm saying to you. You didn't even understand my point. Let alone agree or disagree, so on and so forth. So we have 2 ears and we have 1 mouth. And that's not an accident. Then you should talk more or talk less and listen more. Alaykum salam wa rahmatullah. Moving forward. وَالْإِمَامُ يَخْطُبُ دليل على أن وجوب الإنصات والنهي عن الكلام إنما هو في حال الخطبة وهذا مذهبنا ومذهب مالك والجمهور وقال أبو حنيفة يجب الإنصات بخروج الإمام. As far as the last part of the hadith that says وَالْإِمَامُ يَخْطُبُ إذا قلت, when you tell your friend unsit, keep silent, and Imam is making the khutbah, this proves that it's only haram to talk when the Imam is speaking. No other times. When the Imam is speaking, it's haram to talk. And that's the understanding of most of the people of knowledge. Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, he says, is that you have to keep silent when the Imam comes out. Even before he starts his khutbah, you can't talk. Moving on to the next hadith. And as we said before, there are many modern day issues such as a cell phone. Can you text someone? Can you read a notification on your phone that you get? It's not vibrating. You don't have a ringtone or music or whatever. It's on silent, but you clearly see it. What? It pops up, right? And Imam is giving the khutbah. Can you read the notification? Can you use your face retina while the Imam is speaking? It's a modern day issue. Everyone understand this? Or is it haram? You have to just what? Put it up until after the khutbah. Can you reply to someone? Can you send someone a voicemail? Sorry, I can't talk right now. طيب. And there are many other things pertaining to Yawm al-Jumu'ah and technology and devices. طيب. Another very important point from this hadith. This hadith subtly shows us that the words of the khatib should be clear. Should be clear words, intelligible words, powerful and impactful as well. And that's the whole purpose of keeping silent. You may go to some khutbahs, unfortunately, and the Imam is talking and ranting and rambling, is not saying anything of benefit whatsoever. Rather, he may be saying something of harm, waliyadu billah, and which it may be better for a person to what? Talk, than listen to what he's saying, unfortunately. Wala hawla wala quwwata illa billah. The point is that the khutbah has a purpose, and that purpose is for reminding and enlightening and educating, bringing and raising awareness. And the khutbah and Jumu'ah service is not just for formalities. Everyone understand this? You get dressed up, you look nice, you smell nice, you come to the masjid, the Imam comes with a white robe on and a stick and he talks. And then you just, life goes on. Everything is the same. This is the state of many masjids, many countries today as we speak. The Imam is talking about something that the people are very far from. It isn't practical. It isn't realistic. It isn't something which is dealing with their daily lives. All right? Or, even worse than that, those people who say that the khutbah has to be in all Arabic, but you're living in New York City or Bangladesh, and no one speaks Arabic, but it has to be in all Arabic. So you do a 20-minute khutbah in all Arabic, and then people understand a word from it. But they do what? Before or afterwards, they do what? A bayan, in which is a rushed, quick, jumbled, put together talk in the original language, which isn't the khutbah. Did the Prophet specify that the khutbah had to be in Arabic? First question. Did he say that it has to be only in Arabic? It has to only be in Arabic. And if he did or he didn't, did he allow another speech or another talk to be given on that day with another name, a bayan? So the thing which has no direct proof, we're going to stick to that. It has no direct proof stating it, we're going to stick to that. And then that which has no proof whatsoever, we're going to just bring that and introduce that. Ya Allah. Well, how are we thinking? All right? So critical thought is very important for these issues. So giving the khutbah in a language which people do not understand, that means that people are not going to get anything from the khutbah. They may get hasanat, they may get blessings, the angels pray for them, sa'atul ijabah perhaps, but the tangible enlightenment and reminder is totally absent. And this is one of the reasons why the communities are in the state in which they are in. Jumu'ah is supposed to be a very important time for every single person. Everyone is supposed to benefit. Everyone is supposed to be reminded. So any imam who does not fulfill his duty and his obligation of the khutbah on Friday because of a different language or poor skills or lack of whatever it is, he has failed his people. He has failed his people. And if you are a khatib or an imam, it is your duty and your job to give it your all to perform people in their language, on their level, at the same time trying to uplift them and get them to be closer to Allah and get them to have a better understanding of the fundamental teachings of Al-Islam. Wahakadha. And this is one of the reasons why you're not allowed to talk, because you need to either be taught or to be reminded. I know the information, but I need a reminder. And that's why it's only once a week. That's why it's only once a week. And this is all from the wisdom of not speaking during the khutbah. Everyone understand this? And that's also, you also see why those are different on, do you have to keep silent even if you can't what? Hear the imam. If you can't hear him, then there's no sacredness. Nothing is sacred anymore. And that also can apply waliyadu billah, in which the imam is talking, but it's of no what? It's no purpose. He's just talking. It's nothing more than a what? A formality. Like many other things in our lives are. It's just for show. Just for show. I've been married for 30 years with a miserable marriage, full of abuse and disrespect and trauma, and children that are affected by that marriage. And they grow up with those same problems. But I was what? I was married for 30 years. And I never got divorced. It's only formal. My son is getting married in this big, huge hall. And we spend all of this money and all of these beautiful pictures that we take. And they don't like each other. He doesn't like her, she doesn't like him. It's only what? Formal. The imam, he comes gives the khutbah, this big sheikh. And if people haven't benefited, they haven't learned. It's only what? Formal. So we cannot get caught up on formal things, We have to be stuck to the content, bid'inai ta'ala. And if we have good content, strong content, and we can decorate the form, alhamdulillah, la bas. Inshallah ta'ala. Khairan inshallah. As far as the khutbah in Islam, the minbar today, then oftentimes it's a manifestation of how we understand and practice Islam. And oftentimes it's a manifestation of the strength or the lack of strength in our Islam. Such as the khutbah. What khutbahs do we do? What topics are there? Do we talk about politics on the minbar? Do we talk about the Middle East on the minbar? Do we talk about what's going on in our community on the minbar? Do we talk about people on the minbar? All right? Are we trying to impress the people on the minbar? It's a manifestation of other problems, such as lack of qualified central leadership of the Muslims in the Middle East or in the West, wherever you go. But we're talking about right here in our communities. We have no leadership. We have no unity. We have no central togetherness. So just say whatever you want on the minbar. Talk about whatever you want to talk about on the khutbah. The political chaos of the Muslims. Oftentimes the minbar is what? Victim of it. The imam, he gives a khutbah and he talks about the politics in Palestine and Israel. Or he talks about the politics of Saudi Arabia and Yemen. Or he talks about the politics of the United States, Washington, D.C., so on and so forth. This direction, that direction, where are you going? What are the people benefiting from? How are they learning? How does it make them better Muslims on a daily basis? Not saying that politics are bad. And the ulama have explained there's nothing wrong with these things that are a benefit for the Muslims. But it's oftentimes just chaotic. Because our understanding and practice of many Islamic things are also what? Chaotic. You understand this? And the minbar is what? The victim, unfortunately. Or the eternal war between the board of the masjid and the imam. Most masjids you go to, 9 out of 10. There's always the board, then the imam. The imam has his followers, his loyal people, and then you have the board with their loyal people. And they're trying to remove the imam, and the imam is trying to make a coup to replace the administration. And oftentimes the minbar is what? Is the victim. Imam gives a khutbah, he's attacking the board. Or they bring another khatib, and I've seen this before, in which the imam is sitting on the front row, and the guest khatib is directly or indirectly, covertly or overtly instructed to do what? Pounce on the imam. Wallahi. To do what? Pounce on the imam. Attack him. Oh, what is the ruling on this? Could you talk about this in your khutbah? So on and so forth. All right? Or the length of the khutbah. The khutbah has to be 45 minutes, or half an hour, or an hour. All right? Allahumma musta'an. Many other problems and issues as well. May Allah help us to benefit from the khutbah and from Yawm al-Jum'ah. That's a very long discussion, the fiqh of the khutbah. طيب, next chapter. باب في الساعة التي في يوم الجمعة. حديث أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ذكر يوم الجمعة فقال في ساعة لا يوافقها عبد مسلم وقائم يصلي يسأل الله تعالى شيئا إلا أعطاه إياه وأشار بيده يقللها. It says an hour on Friday. An hour on Friday. Main theme. One time it says khutbah, then it says religious talk, then it says Friday. Why doesn't it say Jumu'ah? If your audience is a Muslim audience, and you use the word salat, and you use the word khutbah, and you use the word all the other transliterated words, why not just say Jumu'ah? Keep it simple. An hour on Friday. Opportune, lucky time. For what? To catch a 4-leaf clover? Or to make dua? Everyone understand this? Allah musta'an. What's the percentage of that after Raqib? Catching a 4-leaf clover. What is the ratio? What do they say? Khalid. Like getting struck by lightning. Like what's the chances of it? You know, Nishan? Let's Google it. Huh? Nah, the clover. The clover, brother. Allahu Akbar. 1 in 10,000 times, huh? A chance is to catch a what? 4-leaf clover. Hollow snow by lightning. 1 in 700,000. Huh? Allahu Akbar. Allah is most great. طيب. It says, Babun fi sa'ati lati fi yawm al-jum'ah. An hour on Friday. And that's not a correct translation either. It's not an hour. The hour. The specific hour. The specific point or period of time during Yawm al-Jum'ah. I.e., to make dua and Allah answer your dua. And which your chances of dua are what? Heightened and amplified. Do we know when this hour is? Or has it been hidden? Has it been taken from us and hidden from us? Do we have signs when it is? Do some of the ulama say that there is a way in which you can determine when it or when it isn't? Like Laylatul Qadr? And what's most beneficial for the Muslim? To know the hour or to pray all day and make dua all day and worship Allah all day? Another very important point of the Qawi is that this is one of the virtues of Yawm al-Jum'ah. Min fada'ili Yawm al-Jum'ah. From the fada'il, from the virtues of this day, is that there is an hour in which so on and so forth, dot, dot, dot. And there are many fada'il, virtues of Yawm al-Jum'ah. Many of them that the ulama have mentioned. The virtues of the day. Just like Ramadan and fasting. There are virtues of fasting, and then there are virtues of Ramadan. It has nothing to do with fasting. A menstruating woman who is not fasting will receive a virtue in the month. A person who's a traveler or who's sick, a baby, someone born or dies in Ramadan, inshallah, is some type of virtue in that month. Even though they're not what? Fasting. Or in the nighttime, when you're not what? Fasting. So there's the virtue of the month and there's the virtue of the actual act of what? Fasting. And the same applies to Yawm al-Jum'ah. The virtue of the actual prayer, alaykum salam, the virtue of the khutbah, the benefit of the khutbah, the tangible information from the khutbah, and there's also the virtue of the what? Of the day. Everyone clear on this? Of the what? Of the day. There's a before and after as well, according to some of the ulama. The eve of Jum'ah and the actual night, meaning the eve of Saturday. طيب. Hadith of Abu Hurairah is 495. Allah's Messenger ﷺ talked about Friday and said, there's an hour on Friday, and if a Muslim gets it while offering salah and asks Allah for something, then Allah would definitely meet his demand. Allah would definitely meet his demand. And the Prophet ﷺ pointed out the shortness of that time with his hands. He moved his hands, says yuqalliluha, and made it qalil, pointing out the shortness of that period of time. Obviously there are issues with that translation. Do you demand something from Allah or request something from Allah? Strong word is a what? A demand. An-Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, قال القاضي اختلف السلف في وقت هذه الساعة وفي معنى قائم يصلي فقال بعضهم هي من بعد العصر إلى الغروب قالوا ومعنى يصلي يدعو ومعنى قائم ملازم ومواظب كقوله تعالى ما دمت عليه قائما وقال آخرون هي من حين خروج الإمام إلى فراغ الصلاة وقال آخرون من حين تقام الصلاة حتى يفرغ والصلاة عندهم على ظاهرها وقيل من حين يجلس الإمام على المنبر حتى يفرغ من الصلاة وقيل آخر ساعة من يوم الجمعة. قال القاضي وقد رويت عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم في كل هذا آثار مفسرة لهذه الأقوال. قال وقيل عند الزوال وقيل من الزوال إلى أن يصير الظل نحو الذراع وقيل هي مخفية في اليوم كله كليلة القدر وقيل من طلوع الفجر إلى طلوع الشمس. قال القاضي وليس معنى هذه الأقوال أن هذا كله وقت لها بل معناه أنها تكون في أثناء ذلك الوقت لقوله وأشار بيده يقلل هذا كلام القاضي والصحيح بل الصواب ما رواه مسلم من حديث أبي موسى عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أنها ما بين أن يجلس الإمام إلى أن تقضى الصلاة. I know we listen carefully regarding this issue. He says, Al-Qadi Iyad, his predecessor, Nawawi's predecessor in the Sharh of Sahih Muslim, as we've explained, the proper way of understanding the Kutub al-Shuruh is that the books were written and there are people that came before certain authors. Al-Hafiz ibn Hajar explained Fath al-Bari, or he explained Sahih Bukhari, in his book Fath al-Bari, and people came before him who explained Sahih Bukhari, and which he quotes from them and he benefits from them. He agrees with them, he refutes them, he summarizes, etc. He benefits from his predecessors, let alone those who have explained hadiths outside of Sahih Bukhari, and which is also collected in Bukhari, like Ibn Abdul Barr and Tamheed, the hadiths in Muwatta. It's in the Sharh of Muwatta of Malik. Let alone the ulama who spoke on the issue of which he's discussing in Sahih Bukhari. So Nawawi rahimahullah, who came before Ibn Hajar, of course, he benefited from his predecessors. And that's why we always read in the Sharh, قال القاضي إياض. Qadi Iyad said this. This one, Maziri said that. As we've explained before. So Al-Qadi rahimahullah, he says, the Salaf al-Salih, they differ on when is this hour, sa'a. And the word sa'a in the Arabic language and in the traditional ancient usage doesn't necessarily mean 60 minutes all the time. Sometimes it could be 60 minutes, or other times it could be, they say, miqdar zamani. Miqdar zamani. A piece of time, a period of time. It could be half an hour, it could be 45 minutes, it could be 10 minutes. You understand this? Al-Muhim is a period of time. A period what? Of time. He says here, and that's a very long discussion, the history of time. The history of calculation of time is a very, very long discussion. He says here, the Salaf, they differed on when is this sa'a, this hour. And they also differ on what's meant by qa'imun yusalli, standing up and praying. Two different issues now. When is it? And what is meant by the slave who asks Allah for something and he's what? Standing up, praying. Does it mean he's literally standing up, or does it mean he's making dua? They differ. He says, rahimahullah, this is opinion number one. Down opinion number one, al-qawl al-awwal. The first interpretation is from Asr to Maghrib. From Asr time to Maghrib time. Asr time to Maghrib time. And what's meant by yusalli, praying, is making dua. Qa'imun mulazimun. Standing up meaning sticking to the dua. That he makes dua from Asr to Maghrib. Consistently. Mulazim. Sticking to it. Adhering to the dua. That's the first interpretation. Interpretation number two, al-qawl al-thani. They say that when the Imam comes out, until when the prayer is over. When the Imam comes out, until when the prayer is over. So based off of that interpretation, that's going to be relatively a short period of what? Time. You see the Imam walk in, all the way into the what? The end of the salah. Making dua in sujood. Making dua at the end of your tashahhud. One may say, when the Imam sits down between the two khutbahs, and many people say it's bid'ah, you can't raise your hands and make dua, so on and so forth. They're basing it what? Off of something. They're basing it off of something. He says, وَالصَّلَاةُ عِنْدَهُمْ عَلَى ظَاهِرِهَا. And what's meant by praying, they say عَلَى ظَاهِرِهَا, literal. That a person is actually standing up what? Praying. That's only going to include what prayer? The Jumu'ah prayer. View number three. Malish, let's go back now. Let's go back. Before we go to view number three, we skip view number two by accident. The second interpretation is when the prayer is established to when the prayer is over. When the prayer is established to when the prayer is what? Over. Not including the Imam coming, nor including the khutbah, nor including the Imam sitting down between the two khutbahs. But it will only include the actual what? Salah. From the iqamah to the taslim. Clear? View number three was the accidental view number two. When the imam comes out until when? The prayer is over. وقيل, number 4, من حين يجلس الإمام على المنبر حتى يفرغ من الصلاة. From the imam sitting on the minbar until the end of the prayer. Very similar to the what? What view? Third? Moving forward. وقيل آخر ساعة من يوم الجمعة. And others, they say it's the last hour of the day. The last what? Hour of the day. So in our times, that will be when? Exactly. What will be the last hour of the day? 4:45. 4:45 p.m. You will look at your watch, or your pocket watch, or your table clock, whatever you have, whatever device or contraption to maintain time. The sky, whatever. Sundial, whatever you have, right? Water clock, al-muhim. You look at, cat's eyes. People used to what? Realize what time it was. By cat's eyes, how dilated the eye was. There's different ways of determining what? Time. Al-muhim is that you're going to check your time and you're going to start making your dua, whatever dua you want to make to Allah, as long as it's not a haram dua, oppressing someone, wronging someone, asking the haram things. That's, the etiquette of dua. From 4:45 to what? 5:45. If you take the literal translation of what? Hour, sa'a. Or from 5 p.m. to 5:45 p.m. Or 5:15 to 5:45. And that's going to be the time in which you're going to stick to as if it's sa'atul ijabah. Like what? Similar to what? Itikaf. I want to make itikaf because it's a big possibility that this is what? Laylatul Qadr. Or one may say, I'm sure or I believe that this is what? Laylatul Qadr, because of the calendar. Calendar says the 27th. Alright? Or our yearly fundraiser, is what? On the 27th. SubhanAllah. What's the delay for that, inshallah? To do that every single year. That's not a bid'ah, no. That's okay. Right? That's not a bid'ah. But to have a sadaqah box is a what? Is a bid'ah. Or somebody may say to do a lecture, al-muhim, whatever somebody says. That's bid'ah. But to do an annual fundraiser in the masjid is what? La bas. See the hypocrisy? The atrocious hypocrisy of the people? Moving forward. He says, rahimahullah, Al-Qadhi Iyad, he says that there are athar to prove each of these opinions. Mufassira lihadihi al-aqwal, which give an explanation to these interpretations. Moving forward. Others, they say, Az-zawal. It says when the sun begins its march towards the west. Meaning when Jum'ah or when Dhuhr what? Before it comes in. Or roughly. Az-zawal. We explained that in Kitab al-Salah. And others, they say, من الزوال إلى يزير الظل نحو ذراع, from the sun reaching its zenith, heading west, until the time in which the shadow is the size of a forearm. Like I said about the what? The sundial. Abdul Raqib, what do you do with a sundial if it's cloudy outside? What do you do, Khalid? We're talking about back in the day when they have no watches.
Calculate the time.
There's no other way of getting the sun through the clouds? Think hard now. Further. It's position of the sun, but
Whatever light is shining through the clouds.
let's say it's totally cloudy.
Yes.
Well, what do you say? What do you guys say? Can you use a sundial when it's cloudy? You can't see the sun. Your eyes can't see the sun. That doesn't mean other things can't. The cat's eyes, huh? Can't steal my fat, Dahi. Good guess, though. Clear. But I'm not talking about estimation, though. I'm talking about actually getting the rays of the sun.
Oh, okay. You mean like taller sundial?
A taller sundial. Tight. Moving forward, guys. He also says, and others they say, hiya makhfiyatun fil yawmi kullihi. It's hidden. Just like Laylatul Qadr. Another view. وَقِيلَ مِن طُلُوعِ الْفَجْرِ إِلَى طُلُوعِ الشَّمْسِ. From Fajr to sunrise. When time Fajr comes in until what? Sunrise. So that's totally opposite of the other opinion at the end of Jumu'ah. That opinion would tell you that Sa'atul Ijabah, the hour of this supreme answering, is in the beginning of the day. And you will make your dua what? Early. Early in the morning and not what? Late in the day. And it shows you, subhanAllah, how different things what? Can be. Moving forward. Tayyib. Knowing his view is that Sa'atul Ijabah is opinion number, I'm going to say it and you tell me the number, inshallah. He says when the Imam sits down until the prayer is established. Which number is that? 4? That's opinion 4, Khalid? 2? Not established, finished, yani. Tuqla. 4?
I have the actual 2.
You have 2.
Well, the one you gave third, that was actual 2.
We fixed that, brother. I retracted that mistake.
So 2.
2. He said 2. Tell you, Al-Muhim, Nawawi's view, the correct time that the sa'a is actually very what? Extremely short. So if it's extremely short, according to this view, what should you do? What will be advisable? Plan. What else?
Write down.
Huh?
Write down.
Write down. What will be advisable?
Just make you want all
According to this view. What will be the most advisable thing to do? Dr. Muhib. What would be the most advisable thing? Simple. Economize. Ask for one thing. One simple dua. One powerful, quick dua. Bang. Or if he has a specific problem, Allah, heal my knee. That's it. And for Allah, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, out of His generosity and kindness, to answer your dua and heal your knee, that's a goal accomplished. And then next week, what? My elbow. Week 3, my hip. Whack it there. If you're going to Jumu'ah every week, what's the what? What's the problem, right? Everyone understand this? You have to be smart. You got to think about it now. It's a short period of time. During the khutbah, what do you have to do? Keep silent. So in actuality, based off of the view that Nawawi adopts, the Sa'atul Ijabah is only when? What are the times when you can make dua? The Imam sitting down, in sujood, last part of tashahhud, can you make dua and ruku'? Says makruh, huh? Everyone understand the points? Is that the time is relatively what? Short. Based off of this and the other views, all right? From Asr to Maghrib, etc. Huh? As we just mentioned briefly. Now, Al-Muhim, you be in the night ta'ala. We're not here to discuss what's the correct view right now. Our job is to take a selection and a sample of fiqh sunnah and to show you how the ulama discuss these hadiths and interpret these hadiths and have different views on these different what? Hadiths. That's our purpose of reading from the sharh like this, no? Inshallah ta'ala. So we'll stop here tonight. And the last thing I'll mention here is it goes to show you is that there are different styles and different ways of making dua. There are different times of making dua, different duas to make, different things, making dua for different people, so on and so forth. And Allah Azza wa Jalla, He gives you and He gives us different bonuses. A bonus. You make dua all of the time. Allah could heal your knee that's been hurt or injured. But now you have a what? An hour. Or Laylatul Qadr. Or Arafah. Or so on and so forth. Everyone understand this? Is that there are specific and special times in which there's a bonus. And we should take it what? Advantage of that. Everyone understand that? We should take what? Advantage of that. Naam? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. We'll take a few questions, inshallah.